Okay, everybody, let's start. Can everybody hear me and can see my screen? If you can hear me and see my screen, please write in the chat. You can tell us where you're from, what are you doing exactly within the construction industry. Great, I can see some answers there. If you want to share where you're from, what you're doing, great. I see we have painting. Great, thank you for answering, guys. During the webinar, we're going to have our chat open. You can use that, but if you have questions, please use the Q&A so I can go over all your questions there. So let's get started, guys. Welcome to today's webinar, How to Use Monday.com for Construction Industry. We are so excited to have you with us. We are really focusing on this industry this quarter, and Monday.com can really be the perfect operating system for your business. So I really can't wait to show you how to use it. This industry is really close to my heart as my family is in construction business also. So I hope I can show you how this is the perfect tool for you guys. So like I said, through the webinar, you can post all your questions in the Q&A section and I'll get to them in the end of the webinar. So what are we going to cover? We're going to start with seeing a high level view of all projects. And then we're going to deep dive and learn how to manage one project within Monday.com. We're going to talk a bit about how to work with contractors, and a really important thing is how to improve your team's communication when working with Monday.com, both team members that are on the field and in the office. We're going to think about what's the best way to stay updated with Field Worker and focus on our mobile app. And I'm also going to give you some spoiler alerts about new and exciting features that we're releasing, especially for you guys. So stay tuned for that. And in the end, we'll have a live Q&A. So why choose Monday.com to manage your construction business? Monday.com is a perfect solution for all construction verticals. So really, whether if you're a small company or a huge corporate, if you're doing residential construction, infrastructure, or even if you're part of design and planning team, we have a solution for you, and I can't wait to show it to you. Today, I will focus on residential construction management as an example, but during the webinar, I'm going to show a lot of example of how you can adjust and customize what I'm showing. So I can see that some of you, wow, you're really from all over the world. Some of you are doing electrical. Wow, we have nonprofit. Nice. So we have many different parts of construction, and I'm going to show how to customize for every need. For those of you who are new to the platform, I do want to tell you that this is not a basic walkthrough of the platform. I won't show you how to build each board. Rather, I will walk you through what is our recommended workflow for construction. But if you do want to see a basic or advanced walkthrough of all the core features and somebody taking a step-by-step on how to build a board, I suggest heading to our webinar page, which is monday.com/webinar/live. And you can book a product demo there. We run webinars every week. So as I said, in today's webinar, we're focusing on the major solution for teamwork on construction. I will mention that all the templates that I'm going to show you here and today's webinar will be sent to you within 48 hours. So really what you can do, you can use the template on your account, add all the information you need, such as files, permits, all those plans, design, and you can invite your team. And the last step, of course, is downloading the mobile app and making sure that everyone in your team also does it, because this is the way that your team can stay updated no matter where they are. So really, even if you're a planner, construction manager, contractor, the workflow is really easy to adjust and to customize. Okay, enough talking, let's get started. Can you see my Monday account with the high level board? Please comment in the chat if you can see it. Yes, perfect. Okay, so let's get started. So as you all are, working in construction projects means that you're constantly toggling between multiple projects. And each project has a lot of stages and you're managing it all at once. Now, the first board we're going to cover is all about giving us a high level overview of where you stand with each project. So I know that with your industry, you have deadlines with literally huge amounts of money at stake. And it's crucial that you keep your eye on the game and that everyone is always aligned and know the dates, and because every change really affects a lot of things. So I want you to take a second here And think of all the times that you had to toggle between multiple emails, files, documents, text messages, all just to understand where you stand on each project and how frustrating it is when you don't have one centralized place for that. So the idea of this board is to have every person involved in your project be able to see at a quick glance in a visual way where we stand at all projects at once. So let's understand the board layout. The first thing you can see over here is the board board name, and board description, and you can of course change it. The idea behind it is that every person that goes into the board knows exactly what this board is about. I divided my board into different groups where each group is a different stage within the construction process. So I'm going to collapse all my groups so you can see. So we have some projects that are still in initiation, some that were in design and planning, some at the bidding stage. We have some projects at execution and construction, and we have some projects in the closeout stage. When I open the groups, you can see that each item is a different project, different construction project that is within this stage. Okay, so we understand now the board and we understand the groups. Let's understand what is the columns and what data they give us. The first column, show me who is my project manager, because I want to be able to see, for example, I'm working in my company with 3 project managers, how many projects each manager is managing. The second column shows us, the status column shows us within this group, within this stage, what is the status of the project. And again, status is your own label system. It can be a priority, it can be a stage, it can be really whatever you want. It can be a regular status telling you if a project is done or not. The next column we have is our timeline column, and this shows me the duration of each project, and it really gives me ability to know how long we're working on each project. But I'm going to take a second and stop and talk about the timeline. Sometimes viewing the data like this is not enough, and you actually want to get a Gantt view of all the projects you're working on. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with our timeline view. I can switch and actually view the data, not as a main table, but as a timeline. And this allows me to see all the projects that I'm working on in a timeline in a Gantt view. I can also change the way that I'm seeing my data. So for example, let's say I want to focus on a monthly view and not a year, or maybe I want to group it not by the stage, but group it by the project manager and see which projects each project manager is working on. So it's really up to you to customize it and do whatever you want with it. The next column is one of my favorite ones actually, which is the location column. When you're managing multiple projects at different locations, you want to be able to see the address, but not just as a written text, but obviously also on a map. So I'm actually going to switch to the map view. This allows me to see where my projects are located, and I can zoom in and out and get a better view of where all my projects are. And maybe this can help me decide, maybe I want to use the same contractor for 2 projects at once. So this is a great visual way to consume the data that you want. The next column we have is 2 numbers column. So I can see what is the total budget allocated for each project and how much I already spent. You can change, of course, the currency. You can choose if you want to see it as average or the sum of everything. And the next column that I added over here is a formula column. Formula is such a powerful tool for construction industry because what it does, it allows you to manipulate the data and change and show different things based on an item data. So for example, over here, I wanted to see if I'm within budget with each project. So what I did, if I'm within budget, it will show me within. If I'm over budget, it will show me that I'm over budget. But I feel like this is not enough for me because as a manager, I want to also see, okay, I'm over budget, but how much am I over budget? So this is another formula column to show us the budget gaps and to help us kind of see where we stand with each one. The next column we have is our upcoming status meeting. So as a construction manager, you're probably running weekly or monthly meetings with key stakeholders to check upon each project. So you can have a calendar, a date column that shows you the next upcoming meeting with notification, notifying you about the meeting. You can also sync those meetings with your calendar by going to the column setting and syncing it with your Google Calendar or other calendars. And you can also enjoy a calendar view that shows you all the status meetings. This way you know what are the meetings that are upcoming this week. So that's another great way to see your data. Now remember, you can create as many views as you want. So whether if it's a timeline, a map, or a main table view, you can play with it and change it. Now, another really cool thing that is one of a very powerful feature is our automations. Here at Monday.com, we really believe that if you have something that you're doing over and over again, like calculations, for example, or like notifying people about changes within the project, sending text messages, calling contractors, all of those things that you're doing manually day to day, we want you to do it automatically. So we have two places for that. One is our automation center and one is our integration center. So let's start with the automation center. You can see I added 3 automations, for example. I want to know whenever a state changes is done, and I want to know it as an update in the update section. Or maybe I want to make sure that everyone is up to date with the upcoming status meeting. So 2 days before the meeting, I want to notify everyone and say, hey everyone, please note that our status meeting is in 2 days. But this is only 2 examples of the automations. You have our automation center here and you can really dig in and think, what is it within your construction project? So maybe you're an infrastructure project and you're having a lot of recurring events, like every time frame you're opening a new project, or maybe you want to notify someone every specific time. So really go into it. And another place that is a great place to consume data is and to prevent manual work is the integration center. Let's say you want to text the contractor every time, every week, or every specific time. You can use our Twilio integration for that. Or maybe you want to forward automatically every email you're receiving to an item within the board. You can use our Gmail or Outlook integration. And I really encourage you to think, what is it that you do today within your day-to-day? And you do it manually and move it to an automatic way. So really, you can create as many as you want, and as many integrations and automations as you want. Now, I know a high-level view of all the projects that we have as a company is nice, but when we work on a project, we need to be able to drill down to all the different tasks, the different timelines, the details, the contractors, all of those things within one project. So each item on my high-level board actually has a link also to that project's board. Each item, as I said, is a different project, a different construction project I'm working on. So let's click on one item's link, Thornhill Court project, and it will take me to that project's board. And it will give me all the specific information that I need. So in this board, we are managing one construction project from start to finish. Now remember, each project, each board can be really whatever you want. So I know in this example, I'm showing you guys a residential project, but maybe you guys are working on a huge infrastructure project, building a new highway. So maybe each board can be a part of that highway. Really up to you guys. Now let's dig into the layout and understand it. So we have our project name, and I wanted for everyone who's going into this board to be able to view some of the basic details. So in the project's description, we have who's the project manager, what's the deadline, and what's the overall budget. Now, the top group is actually really, I feel like it's the heart and soul of the board. It's important that no matter where we stand with the project, and no matter what stage we're at, we will have one centralized place for the management of that project. So for that, we have the project info group. So let's dive into it. And the way I want to dive into it is actually, I created a filtered view for this group. So how did I do it? I hid all the columns that are not relevant for me for this group. And I filtered it so we only see the project info group. So let's take a look at this group right for a few seconds, and then we'll go back to our board. The project info group is really the place for us to track all your data, files, RFIs, plans, and design. So all the project's plan can be within sub-items within this item. So whether if it's electrical plans, floor plan, whether if you're uploading PDF or DWG, you can upload it over here to the file column. You can tag the person who uploaded the plan. So whether if it's the designer or the project manager, you can show if the plan is approved and if it's done. the date that you received the plan. Maybe you created a plan, a change in the plan, because we all know that while working on construction project, plans change. We can upload a new plan every time. Another very important thing of managing our own construction project is our RFI, so request for information. Whether if it's the project manager requesting information from the contractor, or maybe the client is requesting information from the project manager, you can track them all within sub-items, within files. What's the date that it's received? Later, when you're working on the project and you want to go back and check a specific RFI or check a specific plan, you can always go back and do that within the top group. You can also add project updates. You can add them as sub-items, or you can add them in the update section and add them as files over here through the add files icon. So really it's up to you. You can also add all your forms and permits as sub-items or in the update section. So the project info group is your go-to place, so you don't need anymore to go searching through multiple emails or other places to find a specific plan or document. Everything is here, and it's always going to be at the top of your project. So it's always going to be here. So now that we know where we keep all of the project's files and all of the project documents, I want to take a second and dive into the template layout. So like we said, we have the description, we have our centralized files place. Now let's understand our template. Similarly to the previous one I showed you of all the projects, in this template, each group represents a different stage within the construction of this project, which is one residential project. So we have initiation, and we have design and planning, we have bidding, we have execution, and we have closeout. Each item within those stages represents a task, something that we need to do for that as part of that stage. Okay, so now let's look, for example, at one item, for example, foundations, and let's dive in and kind of scroll through all the columns and see what we're doing within each item. And again, you can add as many items or as little items as you want, and as many sub-items as you want. So it's a great way to plan ahead and to know all the tasks that you'll need to get done at each stage. So let's take a look at our foundation and see the different columns. The first column we have is our project manager. Now, the project manager is the same one for the entire project, but if you have different project managers working on different stages, that's a great place. Another thing we tracked is our different contractors. So over here, I'm tracking who's the contractor I'm working at every stage. I can see the stage status, so whether if it's done or waiting for approval, if we're stuck, and we can see the timeline for each stage. Now, another great feature with the timeline, with construction projects, we have a lot of the time milestones, things that we have to achieve at a specific date, or something that this will be our milestone. We know here we're stopping, we're reviewing, we're planning ahead, or we need to meet this milestone. So you can change a timeline and set it as milestone. And this will give you also a visual indication within the timeline that this is a milestone. So let's take a look how it will look like. I'm going to switch for a second to our timeline view. And we can see the foundation is now a milestone, and it looks differently than the rest of our items. So that's another great way of getting more information. So let's change it actually back to a timeline. Let's say we worked for it on this week. Great. Our next column is permits that we need to file. So this is a drop-down column, but you can also set it up as a status column. If you only need one permit per stage, you can have it as a text column or a tags column, really up to you. I liked it as a drop-down column. And then I can have a files column with all the permits that received. The next column is a rating column that we can see what is the QA, QC rating. We can invite whoever is rating to the board, either as team member or as guest. We're going to cover it in a second. And we have QA and QC reports. On the site update is a great place for your field worker to upload updates for you guys, the people in the office, to see. So whether if it's an image of update of the status for that day, or whether if it's a question, are we supposed to do this here or that there? So this is a great place to upload both files, but also images, and to get updates from the field to the office and back. We can also have our plans, whether if it's DWG or PDF, so it really depends on who's consuming those plans, but it's another great way of uploading them. So lots of files, but separating them to different files columns can really make sure that you're organized. You know that this is only DWG, this is only PDF, and here we'll only have permits. It's a great way to stay organized. We can see we have again the budget allocated, the budget spent, and the budget gap with the formula column. And I actually want to take a second and show you something that's really cool that we can do. So let's say with the formula column, I want to see all the updates, all the items that I spent too much, and I want it to be colored. So conditional formatting, I want it to be colored in a different way. I can go over here and add conditional coloring. I want it to be red whenever the formula basic, whenever the budget gaps is minus. So whenever I overspend, I want to see it. So let's take a look how this would look like. So you can see over here, all the places that I overspent are colored, so they can pop up to my eye when I'm looking as a project manager. Great, let's go back to our main view for a second. So this is another great way of staying updated with everything that you need. Now, remember, when you're managing so many files, like I said, you can either manage them within each item or at your top group. But another way to see all the files is actually to switch to a files view. So I can take a look over here and see all the files that I have in one centralized place. So that's another great way to consume your files. Now, another thing that's really useful for construction is dependencies. Now, I know a lot of our stages are dependent on another. So let's say we cannot start with the metal work before we finish concrete work. So I can go ahead and add a dependency column from the column center. Now, I want to make sure that everyone knows that the metal work is dependent on the concrete. I can search or scroll down, so I cannot start with the metalwork until I know I'm finished with concrete. But right now, the dependency just shows me, okay, FYI, metalwork dependent on concrete. But I want it to have a meaning. So what can I do? I can actually go and add an automation through my automation center. So I want to make sure that the date of an item always starts after the date of its dependency. And with this case, I'm using the timeline. Let's add it to the board. Now I'm going to try to set the date of my metalwork before the date of my concrete, and let's see what happens. So let's try to set it up to April. And notice that my concrete work starts on July. If I try to set it up for, let's say, April 1st till 5th, it will, my automation will push it forward after the date of its dependency. Why? Because I cannot set it up before I finish this. So the dependency is a great, powerful way to make sure that you're not setting timelines that you cannot meet. That doesn't make sense with the flow of the construction project. This is one way of consuming the data of your project, dividing each task to the stage of the construction. But I want to show you another way. So really what's amazing about our platform is that you can present the same data in multiple ways. Let's take a look at a different way. Let's say we're working right now on a building that has multiple floors, and I want to see more of my progress tracking. We always keep our project info group to track our RFIs, to track our plans, but right now my group is floors. Each item is a different floor, and the data is shown in a horizontal way. So I have my permits that I need to update, whether if it's done or not, and what's the deadline for permits. The foundation, what's the deadline for my foundations. Framing, and the deadline for my framing. Now take a look, it's set up as deadline mode. So each date column is set up as deadline mode. So for example, if I'm still stuck on it and the deadline was July 12th, I'm going to get a visual indication that I'm overdue. So that's a great way of staying updated. So every stage is not a group, but is a status column and a date column. And of course, you can add also files column if you prefer. So roofing, every stage, we have interior, we have cabinets. Every stage is a different status column and date column. But maybe like I just want to get a fast glance and see only my progress tracking. So for that, I created a filtered view that only show me the statuses. And this gives me a very fast glance to know where I'm standing with each floor. And of course I can change it from here and it will change it with the main view. And this is a great way also to track the progress. So that's another way to consume your data. But again, Monday is very customizable and can give you so much more than just a project overview. So maybe you just want to see all the subcontractors you're working with. For that, we created this board, this template for you. This is a great template to track all the subcontractors you're working with. So whether if it's structural, subcontractor, or service, you can use the status column as your own labeling system to see what type of contractor they are. Are you using them at the moment? You can check mark it or remove it. Their address, their contact information. And you can actually send them a form or send a form, put a form on your website. If somebody wants to work with you, they can fill up their form and they will automatically be shown here. So let's see how it looks like. I added a form view for this board and it would look like this when you fill it up. So let's do a live demonstration. I want to show you that right now, when we look at this, we don't have a contractor named Michal yet. So we are going to write my name. And let's say I'm focusing on floors. Let's say I live in the Coliseum. I'm based in Israel. Great. Sorry. Perfect. And I'm going to put my email. Great. And I can tell a little bit more about myself. Excited to work with you. Without the typo and submit. The moment I submit this form, a new item will be created over here and the new request. And as a project manager or as a company owner, you know that there's a new contractor that want to work with you. You can decide if you want to approve them, if you want to work with them. Maybe you want to delete them and you don't want to work with them. You can delete, you can archive and save it for later. So really up to you. And again, boards are not the only thing you can do. So as a construction manager, a lot of the time you want to get an overview, a high level view. So for that, we have our dashboards. So over here, I created one example of construction dashboard. We can see with a chart that I actually have 29% of my project are execution stage, and 15% of my project, which is 8 projects, are in the design stage. I can see the total budget of all the projects, the budget spent on all the projects, and the budget gap between them. I can get the timeline view of all the projects I'm working on, whether if it's years, months, or weeks, or however you want to consume it. And I can also add a lot of different widgets. So for example, let's say I want to know the weather whenever I'm looking at the dashboard, because I have a lot of projects based in New York and I want to know what's the weather, if there's storm expected. So we can get all of that through the dashboard. So really play with it and add it so you can get a high level view as managers. Now, one thing that we think that is very important for a construction manager is the communication with your team. The most important thing in the end of the day is always communication, because when you're working on multi-stage projects with different stakeholders and different workers for each project, you want to communicate properly with your team. So one way of communicating that we discuss deeply is files. So whether if it's through RFIs, project plan, whether if you want to keep them within the project info group or within each item, whether if you want to look at them here or look at them at the files view, it's really up to you. But remember that files is a centralized place that you can communicate. And with Monday.com, all the files will be within one platform. Another great place to communicate is your update section. So for example, over here, I can see that Omer, my contractor, wrote an update and mentioned me. And he said that he finished his part over here and if I need anything else from him. So that's a great way to communicate. And everyone on the board can see our conversation, can answer, can like, can add files or GIFs, whatever it is that you want to do, you're able to do it. Another great way we can communicate is through the inbox. So all the communication also comes over here through the inbox and the bell notification. So I can see that within this project, within this group, within this item, Omer asked me if I need anything. I can tell him if I need something. If I don't need anything and I finished reading him, I can mark this inbox, this message as read. I can see that Ron, for example, a different contractor I'm working with, asked me something about inspection. So I can answer or I can thank him for whatever update he gave me. So the inbox is another great way to communicate. And you can control your notifications through your profile and manage how you're getting notification, whether if it's through email, bell notification, it is really up to you. Great. But I think the most important place to communicate with your team is the mobile app. The mobile app is a crucial part of communicating on the go. And I want to take a second and talk about that. And also remind you guys that we have a full webinar just devoted to the mobile app. Can you see my presentation with the mobile screen? Right in the chat box, if you can see it. Perfect, thank you very much. So really, most of your workers today that are on the field don't have access to computers during the day, especially if they're doing the construction work. Now, I know some of them have tablets, but some of them don't have it. And in today's world, most workers do have access to phones. And today, you're probably communicating with a lot of them and a lot of the contractors through texts and phone calls and emails. The problem with texts and phone calls and emails is that later it's really hard to track all the things that has been said there. So we want to prevent that. That's a big issue because it creates a lot of work for you. And also tracking it, as I said, is really difficult. Switching to use Monday.com for your field workers as well will really make your life easier. It will make it a hub for all the communication of field workers because you can log into your mobile app, access your boards, access your dashboards, change the status of items, make updates, send you pictures from the field to the office. So all of those things are able through the mobile app as your companion. And you can know exactly what each worker is working on, each contractor is working on, and where. So you can really keep both field workers and office workers aligned with the mobile app. So that's one great thing. So you can consume, whether if it's the boards or the dashboards, you can consume all the data. It's a strategic way for your team to communicate and upload, whether it's files, updates, all of that. Another really exciting feature, and I told you I'm gonna share some spoilers about new features, is that dark mode is almost available on mobile. It's gonna be available really soon. So field workers that are working in the sun, dark mode can be much easier for them to consume the updates. Again, the mobile app is a fast way to communicate between the office and no need to switch between emails, texts, and phone calls. And I want to let you know and remind you guys that next week we're doing the second part of this series, all mobile webinar. It's devoted to construction and field workers on the go using only the mobile app. So next week webinar is going to answer all your questions about the mobile app and how you can communicate with field workers in a better way. But I want you to remember that you can really communicate the same way that you're doing everything you're doing on your web browser, you can also do on your mobile app. Communicate, update statuses, upload and download files. So we're going to have also a lot of resources for you, whether if it's a blog post, article, all the templates, it's all going to be available for you through the mobile app. I promised you some spoiler, guys. I hope you're excited. Are you still with me? Write a smiley in the chat box so I know I still got you and it's not too much. Wow, I can see Corey is excited to see the dashboards are added to mobile. I'm really excited about it also, Corey. I've been waiting for it a long time as well. So some exciting news in the pipeline. Files, so many changes are coming, guys. We know that files are crucial for your industry and you want to consume them on the go, on the mobile app in a fast way, and we're adding so many features there, so keep an eye for it. Another really, really exciting feature that we're doing, especially for you guys, is offline mode. So we know so many construction projects don't have access to to service, whether if it's a huge infrastructure project working, we have one user in the north of Canada working on infrastructure project, or whether if you just don't have any Wi-Fi reception where your construction project is, offline mode is here and it's going to be very soon. It's not here yet. I promise you it's a spoiler. New tablet functionalities. So we know a lot of project managers in construction world are using tablets, and we really want to make sure we support you. So it's not only going to be mobile and computers, also the tablet. And I already talked about it a lot, I know, but I'm really excited of our next week webinar, which is monday.com in the field, August 19th. You can already sign up through our webinar page. So really, before we move into, wait, wow, I can see that you guys are so excited about offline mode. Thank you guys, I'm very excited about it also. Now, before I go to your questions, because I can see you posted some questions and I want to get to all of them, let's take just 1 second to conclude what we discussed so far. So really, I was trying to show you a lot of different ways that you can adjust and customize your workflow within monday.com. And if I'm trying to sum it down to the top reasons why we believe our platform can help you do your job better, is these 3 reasons. So monday.com can keep your communication flowing between field workers and office worker and all stakeholders. So whether if it's on the go, if it's offline mode, file sharing, collaboration, commenting, updating, and whether if it's contractors using forms, checklists, RFIs, all of those crucial communication things can happen through our platform. And let's face it, guys, with this industry specifically, communication is the key. And communication is not always picking up the phone and telling you, I'm late for this work. Sometimes it's saying, hey, we noticed there's an issue with electrical, or we are delaying in this part, or foundation, we need to take a few more days to work on them. So communication is the key, and monday.com is the perfect way for communicating and transparency within the team. The second thing I want you to take from this webinar is remember that it's really important to track the progress, because you want to track your progress to manage all the tasks that you're doing. It's going to make sure that you're on top of tasks, times, and costs. And you can use different layout of the board to enjoy different ways to track the progress. So whether if it's horizontal or vertical, whether if it's using dashboards, or maybe it's using views like Gantt view, daily logs, calendar, location. So the views help you to track the progress in different visual ways. And the last thing I want you to remember is we're trying to be a one-stop shop for all your data. If you have everything in one centralized place, it can really help you guys make sure that nothing gets lost and that you don't need to switch and toggle between so many different places, and have all at once. So I know it's been a lot of information, guys, but I want to take a second and answer all your questions. So I'm going to take 30 seconds, take a sip of water, and then I'm going to go through your questions. So if you have any more questions, now is the time to post them in the Q&A. Great, thank you. So let's dive into your questions. I'm going to take a second and read them. Great, so Kurt asked a really important question. When is Monday planning to enable an offline mode? I think, Kurt, that you added this question even before I gave the spoiler. Yeah, he edited it right at the beginning of the webinar, so good job, good catch. We are working on it at the moment, so I cannot provide an exact ETA of what date is it going to be released, but it's something that we're heavily focusing on this quarter, so I hope it will be soon. I'm sorry I can't provide us exact ETA, but it's something that we understand that is crucial for your industry, and we are doing our best to allow it as fast as possible. Hope it answers your question. Wow, Aries asked a really good question. So the question is, are the total and spent budget columns can be synced with another board? So let's say you have a more detailed financial board and you want to sync it or integrate it with QuickBooks. Great question. So first of all, we have a lot of different integrations you can run. And if you ever you don't find the integration Let me switch to my Monday board. If you ever don't find the integration that you want, you can always send us a feedback and request for an integration. So we're always trying to add more integrations thanks to what you're asking. So over here, you can see all our current available integrations, but there's also other ways to integrate with other platforms using a third party like Zapier or Integromat. So two parts answer. So if you're looking to create an integration and you cannot find it internally within monday.com, always write to us to support@monday.com. We have a lot of solutions to create those integrations that you want. Now, back to your question about the total and spent budget, you can actually integrate it with other boards. So one column that I really like is the mirror column, and the mirror column allows you to mirror data from a different board to this board. And then you can use the data presented in the mirror column and use it within the formula column. So to add a mirror column, you go to more columns. You're going to add both the mirror and the link to item column. Let's select, for example, our high level view of construction. And let's connect, I'm just choosing random item to show you. And I want to mirror, not the project manager, but I want to maybe mirror budget spent as a sum. So I can see over here. So what this mirror column does, it mirrors data from a different board. From what board? This one, construction project high level view. From what item within that board? This item. What does it mirror? The budget that we spent. And then you can add it to the formula column. So you can create complex calculation. If this has been too fast for you, please write to us to support@monday.com. We would love to walk you through exactly through the mirror and the construction. And I'm actually going to take a second and show you how you can also find answers. So you can always use the question mark over here and either search for an article or a video. So you can see a mirror column and read the article, or you can contact us and provide us more information about your question. So those are two great ways of finding answers to questions if you didn't understand my answer or if I didn't answer your question. Okay, cool. Let's see the next question. So Adam is asking if there is a way to automate updating the actual budget spent, or does it need to be done manually? So Adam, the formula column does it automatically. So let's say, for example, now the budget spent, it's not 250, it's 350,000. Let's see. So you see it changes automatically. Let's say I spent 1 million. It automatically updates. So the formula column will run automatically. You don't need to manage it, to update it manually. If I change it to 0, it will show me that I'm within budget. So I'm not over budget, and it will show me how much I have left. So that's another great way. Karen asked, what about tracking? I'm not sure I understood your question actually, Karen. So if you can either elaborate a bit more, or if we don't get to your question, write to support@monday.com. Let's see what other questions we have over here. Okay, great question about dependencies. So can you elaborate a bit more on dependencies? What happens if you mark something as done before you mark something else as done? And this is a great question because it's very important for your industry. So with dependencies, let me just move from the high level to the low level view where we added. With dependencies, what you can do with them at the moment, and we are working on adding more options there as well, is add any one of these automation recipes that allows you to control. So for example, let's say you want to make sure that a specific date of an item always starts after another date start, you can make sure of that. Or when a status changes to something, change the status of its dependency to something else. So let's say you want, when a status of a task changes to done, you are ready to work on the status of its dependency, you can add it as an automation recipe. Or maybe you want to adjust the date to reflect changes made to another date within the dependency or within the same item. These are the options that you have at the moment with dependencies, but if you feel like you need a different option or this does not answer your question, write to us to support@monday.com because we always add more recipes. And also we are working on custom recipes. So this will allow you to create whatever automation recipe that you want. Let's see what other questions we have. Great question, Chris. So Chris asked, what kind of ongoing real-time support do you offer? So first of all, our customer service, our support through email that you can also reach through the platform here by help and contact us is there 24/7. We answer, if you ask us to answer, drop everything and answer, and we answer within 10 minutes. And if you ask just for awesome support, we would answer within 60 minutes. So this is a really kind of ongoing support that we offer, and we would love to email you and answer any question that you have within really minutes. So 10 minutes or 60 minutes, you can decide if it's an urgent question that you want to get an answer within 10 minutes or 60 minutes. So that's one type of ongoing support. If you're looking for a more like onboarding support and you want us to help you onboard your entire team and help you create templates and create your workflow, we do offer that as well. So whether if it's with our team or whether if it's with a partner that we work on, depending on you and depending on the state that you're at, and if you're looking to get an onboarding in a different language, we offer all of that. So the prices and the different options, the best way to know them is either is to write to us to support@monday.com. Tell us exactly what you're looking for. So if you're looking for fast help through email, we can offer that for free for everyone. If you're looking for us to onboard your entire team, we offer that as well. Write to us and we would love to help. So we are working on supporting all different files. That's a great question. So somebody asked here, what files do we support? Do we just support DWG, PDF? We are working on supporting all files, and you can upload any file that you have to the file column or to the update section. Okay, great. We have time for a few more questions. Let's see. Oh, great question. So where can we see the templates? So you can enjoy the different templates that we have. If you go and click over here through and you go and choose from a template, you can click on see more templates. So you can search for construction templates that will be available here. They'll also be sent to you within 48 hours, the templates that we use on this webinar. But guys, I really encourage you to go and explore more templates. So maybe you actually prefer project management templates, or maybe you also want to manage your company's HR business within Monday.com, or maybe your office operation also you want to manage it within Monday, so you can use the template center for that. Great, we have time for one more question. Great question. So you wanted to know how we can actually use the formula column for different things. So the formula column, the way it works is that it tracks data from that same item. It looks like this, and you can add the data from the different columns I have on this board, or you can use different functions. Now, I'm not gonna deep dive into how to build formulas, but guys, I can tell you, formulas is really my favorite feature. I know I said it a lot, but if there's something that I love to do is build formulas. So whenever you want someone to build you formula, you can write to us to support@monday.com. We would love to build a formula for you. We're all very excited about them. But you wanted to know actually a different use case. So in here, I showed you formula for budget planning, but let's say you want to know what materials you need to order. Maybe you're in the flooring stage and you know that if a room is a certain size, so certain meters by meters or feet by feet, you know that you need to order a specific amount of tiles. You can add a formula that would say if the status, for example, is big room, then show me X amount of tiles. If it's a small room, show me a different amount of tiles. So really think with the formula, think what calculations you're doing in your day-to-day work and how you can prevent them using the formula. Okay, great question about my favorite topic. Glad you brought it up. Great, guys. So really, I want to remind you, use us. We are here to help you. So whether it's through support@monday.com, whether it's through sending me your feedback on this webinar and what else you would want to see, we want to know, and we want to incorporate your requests and the things that are important for you in next week's webinar, which is the second part of this webinar, monday.com for field workers. So really feel free to use us. And remember that we're here to help you communicate better. We're here to help you track your progress. We want to provide you this one-stop shop. So whether if it's for your high-level view, your dashboards, your contractor is, anything that you want, we want to do it within Monday. So thank you so much for your time, guys. And I hope this has been helpful. And I can't wait to see you in next week. Reminding you, it's going to be an all mobile webinar. So have a great day, guys. And we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.